Marcus Vale stood at the edge of the docking platform, his boots steady on the cool metal underfoot. His heart beat like a drum in his chest. Behind him lay the long journey from Earth. Months of travel through silent space, days spent in transit, pods nights waking to the hum of life support. Ahead rose the gleaming towers of Lyra Prime's orbital station, each spire tipped with light. Marcus carried only a slim pack and one sealed data crystal, but his mind brimmed with questions. What had he agreed to? He was a simple envoy, trained to speak for humanity. He had never signed up for anything sacred, let alone a rite older than the oldest star maps. The station's corridors stretched before him like a maze of glass and silver. Sunlight filtered through prism windows and painted rainbows on the curved roof. Soft hums and distant footsteps echoed on smooth floors that bent gravity to guide visitors along gentle inclines. Strange green vines climbed some walls, trailing beneath floating planters. Holographic signs in many languages drifted beside doorways. Marcus paused to look at one. "Welcome, envoy of Earth." He let out a slow breath. He had expected diplomatic meetings or trade talks, but nothing prepared him for the whispered excitement he sensed around every turn. A pair of figures appeared at the far end of the hall. They walked in perfect step, skirts of pale blue and violet robes brushing the floor. Their hair was the same silver sheen cut in twin spirals that framed their faces, yet each carried a different light in her eyes. One smiled with quiet warmth, the other smiled with fierce joy. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. As he drew near, he realized these were the Synaxian ambassadors, Alara and Senia. Tales of their beauty and strength had reached Earth long ago, yet no image could match the living sight of twin power made flesh. The sisters stopped before Marcus. They bowed as one, voices low but clear. "Welcome, Marcus Vale," Alara said, her tone steady like a calm sea. Senia's voice rose in a bright counterpoint. "We are honored to share this moment with you." They stepped closer, and a hush fell over the corridor. Marcus noticed every eye turned toward him. Even the quiet station guards held their breath. Then, in a voice that carried through his mind rather than his ears, both sisters said the same words. "The rite of binding is now begun." Marcus felt a chill. Binding. He searched their faces. Neither showed surprise or doubt. Each seemed to know something he did not. They led him down a side passage to a chamber beyond the main halls. The door slid open to reveal an alcove of living crystal, walls that pulsed with soft light. In the center stood two pedestals, each carved with the twin symbols of Alara and Senia, interlocking spirals of fire and water. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The air was cool and scented faintly of sweet spice. Alara motioned to the left pedestal, Senia to the right. "Place your hands here," they said in unison. Marcus obeyed, feeling the smooth surface under his palms. The sisters approached, jeweled circlets in hand, one of bronze filigree, the other of silver threads. Alara lowered her circlet onto Marcus's brow first. The bronze metal shone with little sparks, and he felt warmth spread from his forehead to his toes. She whispered words he could not understand, but they sounded like music in his mind. Then Senia placed her circlet atop the first, and cool tendrils of energy wound around the warm light. She sang notes that rang clear and pure. In that instant, Marcus saw twin galaxies spiral together, stars aligning, colors blending. A soft pressure pressed against his temples, as if two hands held his, head gently from both sides. His vision swam, and for a moment he forgot where he stood. When the light faded, he found himself kneeling before the sisters, their hands resting on his shoulders. He looked up to see Alara's face close to his own, eyes full of questions he could not yet answer. Senia gently brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. Around them, the crystals pulsed once more, as if the station itself marked the new bond. Marcus swallowed hard, his throat dry. He had expected a simple welcome. He had expected a chance to speak of Earth. Instead, he felt part of something vast, ancient, and alive. Voices returned in the corridor outside. Court attendants and guards whispered greetings and awe. Some bowed low, others captured the scene. on glowing hollow pads. Marcus straightened, the two circlets still warm against his skin. He met Alara's steady gaze, then Senia's gentle smile. Both stood close, symbols of power and grace. In that instant, Marcus understood. His mission would be unlike any other. He was no longer only a diplomat. He was bound in both flesh and spirit to two alien sisters, each claiming his loyalty, each offering a path into the mysteries of their world. As they led him back into the main hall, Marcus felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. He stood, taller, filling his lungs with steady breaths. His boots clicked on the polished floor. Every step felt heavier and more certain at once. Ahead lay questions, dangers, wonders beyond measure. Yet he moved forward without fear, for he was bound now to Alara and Senia, and their bond would guide him into the heart of Lyra Prime, and beyond. Alara and Senia led Marcus through winding corridors until they reached a side door he had not seen before. The door's frame was carved from white stone that glowed faintly in the dim light. As it slid open, Marcus stepped into a round chamber high above the station's heart. Moonlight poured through a wide slit in the ceiling, striking the floor, in a single beam. In that beam stood a circle of stones, each etched with symbols he did not yet understand. The air in the chamber was cool and still. Marcus felt a quiet hum beneath his feet, as if the living crystal of Lyra Prime pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Alara and Senia moved to either side of the circle and waited, their faces calm but bright with anticipation. They wore robes of white that caught the moonlight, and each held a silver chalice. Marcus's palms grew slick with sweat. He remembered his training, how to speak, how to negotiate. But nothing in any manual had prepared him for a moonlit rite atop an alien. Station Senia spoke first. Her voice was soft yet clear. "This is the rite of first light," she said. "It honors the union of spirit and starfire. Tonight you will see the power that flows between us." Alara stepped forward, raising her chalice. From inside, pale, blue liquid shimmered like starlight. Senia's chalice held a deeper green glow like living water. They moved in perfect harmony, crossing to Marcus's sides. Alara dipped her hand into her cup and touched Marcus's right wrist. The liquid felt cool and smooth against his skin. A faint spark ran up his arm, and his breath caught. He looked at Senia, who did the same to his left wrist. His eyes widened as warmth spread from her touch up to his shoulder. The two energies met in the center of his chest. For a moment he felt lifted, as if he floated above the stones. Alara spoke again, her words flowing in a language he did not know. She sounded like gentle wind through leaves. Senia joined in, her voice steady and rhythmic like waves against a shore. The sisters' chant wrapped around Marcus. He closed his eyes and focused on the light behind his lids. He saw flickers of blue and green, ribbons of color dancing together. In those ribbons he felt memories not his own. Vast forests under emerald skies, cities carved in crystal, rivers of molten glass, the ritual built to a soft crescendo. Suddenly the stones around them glowed in turn, each lighting up as Marcus's heartbeat echoed in the chamber. He felt power stirring beneath his skin. He opened his eyes to see Alara and Senia holding their chalices high. The beams of light from above split into twin shafts that wound around the sisters and then fell onto him, bathing him in silver radiance. The circle's symbols glowed in response, and the air hummed louder. Then, as quickly as it began, the light relaxed. The chalices dimmed. The stones returned to their quiet glow. Marcus felt his feet firmly on the ground again. His chest rose and fell in deep breaths. He looked at Alara, whose silver eyes shone with pride. Senia reached out and gently touched his cheek. "You have taken the first light," she said. "You are marked by our bond, Marcus Vale." He reached up and touched his wrists. The faintest scars lined his skin like silver threads beneath the surface. He flexed his fingers and felt the gentle pulse of energy still there. A mix of wonder and responsibility washed over him. He had not only witnessed the rite, he had become part of it. The power of two alien worlds now ran through him, and he could not turn back. As they left the chamber, the moonlight faded behind the door. The sisters guided him down a spiral staircase that wound around a central shaft of living crystal. Light from unseen veins in the stone lit their path. With each step, Marcus felt the bond deepen. He understood that the rite of first light was more than ceremony. It was a promise that Alara and Senia would stand by him, and he by them, through all dangers and wonders to come. When the staircase ended in a balcony overlooking the station's core, Marcus took a steadying breath. Before him, the full expanse of Lyra Prime's heart pulsed with energy. He raised his head and met the sisters' gazes. In Alara's eyes burned a fierce light of courage. In Senia's, a calm wave of wisdom. Marcus realized that his journey had only just begun. This bond, born in moonlight and song, would guide him through trials he could not yet imagine, and shape the fate of two worlds joined forever by human and twin sisters alike. Morning light filled the private chamber as Marcus Vale awoke to the soft glow of twin suns just cresting the horizon. His limbs felt heavy with anticipation. Today he would face the trials of harmony, the tests designed to prove his bond with Alara and Senia. Already the sisters waited for him in the hall, their robes shifting like tides of light and shadow. Senia stood to his right, her gaze calm and steady. Alara to his left, her eyes bright with challenge. Marcus rose, steadied his breath and followed them through the echoing corridors of Lyra Prime's station toward the shuttle bay. The small shuttle hummed as it lifted from the station and angled down toward Vera's Vale, an open crater on the planet's surface where bioluminescent rivers wound through emerald fields. When they landed, Marcus stepped onto soft, mossy ground. Above him, alien trees arched like cathedrals of jade. Senia led him to the riverbank. The water glowed with pale green light, and strange fish darted beneath the surface. "Your first trial," Senia said, her voice gentle, "is to understand the river's song. You must gather pure water from the rapids without disturbing its flow, and heal the break in the old dam further upstream." Marcus nodded and knelt at the edge. He cupped his hands in the cool, glowing water. It rippled around his palms like silk against skin. He filled a small crystal vial Senia handed him, careful not to spill even one drop. Then he rose and followed Senia upriver. When they reached an ancient stone dam cracked by shifting earth, the water roared through the gap as if in pain. Marcus felt his heart tighten. He recalled Senia's words about empathy as power. Closing his eyes, he placed both hands on the damp stone. He breathed slowly, thinking of peaceful streams and starlit nights. He whispered words of comfort in the old Synaxian tongue, words Senia had taught him. To his surprise, the water's roar softened. The glow dimmed to a steady pulse, and the crack in the dam shimmered as crystalline tendrils wove themselves together. When Marcus opened his eyes, the dam stood whole again. Water flowed over its lip in a gentle cascade, glowing steadily. Senia smiled and touched his arm. "You have listened well," she said. "You have mended both stone and spirit." Marcus felt warmth in his chest. He held the vial aloft. Its contents shone brighter than before, reflecting the strength of his bond. Alara's voice called him onward. She guided him back to the shuttle, and they rose again into orbit. The next destination was the solar forge of Iraq, where liquid plasma was shaped into living energy. As the forge's spires came into view, Marcus felt a surge of heat even before he stepped onto the landing platform. Rivers of molten light flowed through channels in the rock, and the air thrummed with raw power. Alara led him through blast doors into a vast hall where forge masters tended the glowing lifeblood of Lyra Prime. She wore a cloak of flickering firelight that danced across her shoulders. "This trial," Alara said, "is yours to master. You must shape a shard of pure plasma into a stable energy core. Use the Synaxian tools at the bench before you. Remember your bond. Focus not on force, but on balance." Marcus approached the work table, where a small cradle held a sphere of liquid light. He picked up a pair of tempered tongs, their handles cool despite the heat. He placed the glowing orb onto a circular plate and felt its warmth seep through the metal into his gloves. His breath came fast. Around him, the Forge Masters worked without hesitation, but to Marcus the tasks felt impossible. He took a steadying breath and recalled Senia's river, the feel of water in his palms, the soothing words that had calmed the dam. Slow and steady, he moved the sphere in a wide circle, guiding its flow along the grooves of the plate. He felt resistance as the plasma fought to expand and fracture. He whispered in his mind, asking the energy to bend. To his wonder, the orb stretched into a slender shard of pure light. The edges glowed with inner fire, but the form held together. Alara's eyes shone when the shard settled. "You have found balance," she said softly. "You wield fire and water both." They carried his trials results, the water vial and the plasma shard, to the Hall of Unity at the station's core. 2 high priests awaited them beside a crystalline dais. As Marcus placed the vial and the shard upon the dais, the room filled with soft chants. The priests examined his work, nodding at the restored water and the stable energy. Then one priest's brow furrowed. He whispered to his companion and glanced at Marcus with concern. "There are readings of dark energy in the outer courts," he said. "You must be prepared for shadows as well as light." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with air temperature. Alara and Senia exchanged a glance. They placed their hands on his shoulders. "You have done more than succeed," Senia said. "You have shown heart and mind together." Alara added, "But our world faces threats we cannot yet name. You will need both your strength and your bond." Their words settled on Marcus, like a mantle of duty. He straightened, the weight of his trials behind him and the uncertainty of what lay ahead before him. That night, Marcus lay awake in his chamber, listening to distant hums of the station. In his mind he saw rivers and fires dancing together, water flowing into flame and flame cooling into water. He felt the warmth of Alara's fire and the calm of Senia's sea. Though the trials had tested his body and spirit, they had also shown him the power of harmony. He closed his eyes, welcoming both light and shadow in his dreams, ready for whatever trial would come next in the bond that tied 3 souls across space. The marble halls of the Synaxian court gleamed under soft crystal lights as Marcus Vale walked beside Alara and Senia. His newly bound spirit still hummed with the power of the trials of harmony, but he felt unease knotting in his stomach. Courtiers in flowing robes drifted through arched corridors, their eyes flicking to Marcus, with curiosity or thinly veiled suspicion. Whispers trailed behind him like ghosts. He had mended rivers and shaped fire. Now he would navigate the hidden currents of politics. Senia paused before a towering archway carved with spirals of water. "This way," she said quietly. "The council gathers soon." Alara fell into step on Marcus's other side. "Be ready," she warned. "Not all welcome our bond." They entered the grand audience chamber, a vast room ringed with tall columns. At its center stood a circular dais where High Counselor Terex held court. His robes were dark violet, trimmed in silver, his eyes narrow and calculating. Marcus bowed low beside the sisters. "Marcus Vale," Terex began in a velvet voice. "Your bond to our ambassadors is noted, yet some question its place in Synaxian tradition." He gestured to slim monitors showing images of Marcus with Alara and Senia in crystalline rites. A human sharing power with both sisters, never before seen. Mutters rose around the hall. Marcus felt his cheeks warm. He straightened and met Terex's gaze. "High Counselor," Marcus said, voice steady, "I honor your customs and cherish this bond. I seek only to serve peace between our worlds." His words echoed in the high dome. Alara's silver eyes glinted with pride. Senia's calm smile encouraged him. Terex tapped a slender rod against the dais. "Words are fine, but traditions guide us." He turned to a group of elderly counselors. "What say you?" One counselor, Lady Kira, stood. Her robes were patterned like dripping water. "Humans are newcomers to our legacy," she said. "To bind one human to twin sisters risks imbalance." A hush fell. Marcus's heart fluttered. He had faced trial by river and flame. Now he faced judgment by fear. Another counselor, Merrick of the Forge, spoke next. His voice was gruff but not unkind. Marcus proved his worth in the Forge of Iraq. He balanced fire and water. That harmony shows he is more than human flesh. A ripple of agreement passed through some corners. Lady Kira's lips pressed into a thin line. Terex raised his hand. The council will deliberate. Return in the hour. The sisters guided Marcus out. As they walked through side passages, Alara whispered, "This gathering was a test." Senia added, "Our bond draws hope and envy." Marcus nodded. He had expected political tensions, but the court's cold calculations felt sharper than any trial. They reached a secluded terrace overlooking the planet's azure seas. Senia inhaled deeply. "Marcus, there are forces here who will not rest until our bond is undone." She placed a hand on his arm. "Be watchful." Alara handed him a small, polished stone. "This links us," she said. "If danger comes, it pulses." Marcus accepted it, feeling its smooth warmth. Back in his private chamber, Marcus set the stone on his desk. He stared out at the stars beyond glass walls. He had faced physical trials. Now he faced unseen threats. He knew he must learn courtly ways, reading faces, sensing deceit, speaking truth like a blade. Yet part of him feared betrayal more than any foreign enemy. An urgent chime sounded. Alara and Senia appeared at his door, worry on their faces. "You must come quickly," Alara said. "Something has happened." They hurried down the corridor to the Hall of Reunion, where healers and attendants bustled in panic. Lanterns cast long shadows over overturned benches. Marcus's pulse quickened. He saw Senia's gold circlet lying on the floor, its silver threads tangled. "Where is she?" Senia cried softly. Alara's hand pressed to her sister's shoulder. "We do not know." Marcus's mind raced. He touched the linking stone. No pulse. His heart pounded. They found a small side chamber where a single hooded figure lay collapsed. Senia dropped to her knees. Alara knelt beside her sister, brushing back her hair. "Senia," she whispered, "wake." The hood fell away, revealing Senia's pale face and closed eyes. A fine sheen of sweat covered her brow. Marcus knelt on the other side and placed a hand over her heart. The linking stone remained still. A healer in pale robes pushed forward. "Madam Ambassador has been poisoned," she said quietly. It was a slow-acting toxin placed in her tea. Marcus's stomach twisted. Poison. In a court where words often killed more surely than weapons. He looked at Alara, whose normally bright eyes were shadowed with fear. "Who would do this?" Alara demanded, rising. The healer shook her head. "We have no proof, but the council's enemies move in the dark." Senia gasped and opened her eyes. Relief and fear flickered in her gaze. Alara set her jaw. "Then we must act in the light." Marcus rose, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on him. He had sworn to protect the sisters. The trials had shown him his strength. Now he would test his wits. He stepped between them. "We will not wait for shadows to strike again," he said. "Tell me everything you know." In his pocket, the linking stone warmed for the first time. As dawn light filtered through stained glass, casting colored patterns on marble floors, Marcus felt resolve tighten his spine. Court intrigue could cut deeper than any blade. But he had learned harmony in water and fire. Now he would learn harmony in words and whispers, and he would not fail the sisters who had chosen him for their sacred bond. A red alarm light bathed the command deck in harsh color as Marcus' veil burst through the hatch. Alara and Senia were already at the holoconsole, their faces lit by the flicker of incoming battle data. Outside the viewport, streaks of laser fire cut against the darkness of space. Marcus's heart pounded. The Oberus Imperium fleet had broken through the outer defense ring. Senia's hand found his. "The Imperium warships move in twin squadrons," she said, voice calm but urgent. They seek to overwhelm our shields. Alara raised her chin. Marcus, you and I will take the dreadnought Aurora's light on the left flank. Senia, you hold the station core here. Marcus nodded as they snapped into roles. He followed Alara down the narrow corridors of the orbital station toward the hidden docking bay. Every bulkhead rang with distant impacts and shouts. Engineers rushed by, hauling tools and power cells. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He clutched the linking stone, its warmth reminding him of the sisters' trust. When they reached the bay, a sleek Synaxian dreadnought loomed before them. Its hull was carved from living metal that shifted like rippling water. Alara guided Marcus aboard. We must sync our minds, she said. They pressed their palms together and Marcus felt a rush of energy, her fierce courage flowing into his thoughts. As the dreadnought slipped free, Senia's voice echoed through Marcus's comm link. Good luck, Marcus. Remember our bond. He closed his eyes and centered himself. A second wave of energy pulsed inward as Senia joined the sync. Her calm wisdom spread through him, steadying his nerves. Now 3 minds moved as one. The dreadnought's engines flared as they leapt into space. 2 squads of Imperium fighters darted toward them like angry hornets. Marcus gripped the control yoke, flanked by Alara's orders and Senia's guidance. Right side, Senia whispered. They have a vulnerable sensor array. Alara fired the main batteries in a burst of blue light. Marcus banked the ship and aimed the laser cannons at the array. Under synchronized control, the assault was precise. The dreadnought's weapons struck true, disabling enemy sensors. The Imperium ships faltered, their formation breaking. Marcus dove through the gap, weaving between debris and fire. His breath raced, but the sisters' voices were clear in his mind. Steady. Focus. Behind them, the orbital station's turrets opened fire, pushing back the Imperium fighters toward their capital ships. In the hollow console aboard the station, Senia coordinated reinforcements, routing cruisers to flank the enemy. Marcus saw the tide turning. Imperium vessels began to pull back from the station, but a massive dreadnought loomed ahead, blocking their retreat. Alara tapped Marcus's shoulder. We can't let that ship escape, she said. If we take out its engines, their fleet will scatter. Marcus swallowed and set a course for the enemy dreadnought's vulnerable stern. The ship's energy glow pulsed like a heartbeat. On my mark, he said into the link. Alara counted down in silence. At 0, Marcus pressed the firing sequence. A volley of disruptor beams sliced through space. The enemy dreadnought shuddered, its engines flickering and then dying. One last blast from Aurora's light struck the command bridge, crippling its systems. The enemy dreadnought spun helplessly away, its crew forced to abandon ship. As the 3 bonded minds celebrated their victory, Marcus felt a burst of pride and relief. When the battle ended, the Synaxian fleet gathered around the station. Alara and Senia joined Marcus on the deck of the Aurora's light. The sisters placed a hand each on his armored shoulder. Senia's eyes gleamed with gratitude. You were the key. Alara's silver smile was fierce and warm. You saved both our worlds today. Marcus exhaled, the adrenaline slowly fading. He looked at the 2 sisters, the bondmates who had chosen him. In that moment he knew the rite of binding had unlocked more than a sacred connection. It had revealed a shared strength that could turn the tide of war. As distant stars glimmered beyond the viewport, Marcus felt hope shining brighter than any fleet's victory lights. Night draped itself over Lyra Prime as Marcus Vale stood at the edge of the high terrace. Beneath him, the glowing city lights formed rivers of gold and emerald. Above him, 2 moons shone side by side, casting silver twin beams through the stars. In his hand, Marcus held the polished linking stone that Alara and Senia had given him. In the court, its warmth pulsed like a heartbeat, reminding him of the bond they shared. He had faced trials of river and fire, navigated court intrigue, and turned back a hostile fleet. Now, the rite of final union awaited him. Tradition demanded that he choose one sister to join in the final bond. That bond would seal their souls together forever, while an unchosen sister would remain linked only by memory. Marcus's chest tightened at the thought. He cherished Alara's fierce courage and Senia's calm wisdom. How could he give himself fully to one, knowing the other would be left behind? Marcus descended the marble steps to the sacred cenotaph they had first entered together. Living crystal walls glowed softly as if breathing. In the center stood the two pedestals, each bearing the spiral symbol of fire or water. Marcus paused, remembering the moment they had placed circlets upon his brow. The circlets still rested on their velvet cushions nearby, one bronze, one silver. To complete the final rite, he would lift one and place it upon his heart. Footsteps echoed behind him, and he turned to see Alara and Senia emerge from the shadowed archway. They wore their ceremonial robes of white, trimmed with threads of gold and aquamarine. Neither spoke, but Marcus saw the flicker of emotion in their eyes: hope, fear, love. He stepped forward, and the linking stone pulsed faster. Alara reached out to him first. Her silver eyes shone with fierce light. "Marcus," she said softly, "the rite of final union calls only one. Know this: I would stand by your side in any darkness." Senia's hand touched his other arm. Her voice was like a calm shore. "And I would guide your spirit through any storm. The choice is yours." Marcus bowed his head, torn by his own feelings. He closed his eyes and let his thoughts drift back through every trial. He saw Senia's gentle guidance by the bioluminescent river, the comfort she brought as she healed the old dam. He felt Alara's steady counsel in the solar forge, her hand on his when the plasma shard held its shape. He saw them both in battle, their linked minds guiding swift tactics. Each memory glowed in his mind like a star. Yet in every memory he saw not two paths but one, a path where the three of them moved as one, a path that did not demand a choice of one over the other. Marcus opened his eyes. "There is another way," he said, voice firm. The sisters looked at him, surprise and hope mingling in their faces. He stepped between them and placed the linking stone on the polished crystal floor. It glowed bright, sending ribbons of light up the walls. "The ancients spoke of a convergent bond," Marcus continued. "A true union of three souls never tested in living form. It was thought too dangerous, but it may be the bond we share." Alara and Senia glanced at each other, curiosity and caution in their eyes. The light from the stone split into three beams that coiled around them. Marcus approached the bronze circlet and lifted it, holding it against his heart. He then lifted the silver circlet and set it atop the first. The twin metals overlapped and fused into a new symbol, two spirals intertwined around a third core. The room pulsed with power, as though the living crystal itself approved. Alara reached for Marcus's hand, Senia for his shoulder. In that moment, their thoughts and feelings merged. Courage and wisdom, fire and water, human soul and twin alien hearts. Energy swirled around them in colors Marcus had never seen, and he felt a deep peace settle within him. The crystal walls brightened, runes glowing in response. When the light faded, Marcus stood with both circlets upon his chest. Alara and Senia knelt before him, their eyes shining with trust and love. Marcus knelt in return and spoke the vow of threefold unity in the ancient tongue. His voice was steady. In his heart, he promised to honor the bond that bound them equally, to stand for all three destinies. The cenotaph's crystal ceiling opened to the sky, and moonlight bathed the three in silver radiance. A soft melody filled the chamber, as if the station itself sang. Marcus rose and helped Alara and Senia to their feet. Around them, the walls glowed warmly, symbols of the converged bond shimmering in the light. As they emerged from the cenotaph, Marcus felt the new power flowing through him. He looked at Alara's fierce smile and Senia's soft grin. They needed no words now. Their souls were one triad. Beyond the chamber, Lyra Prime awaited, a world that would soon witness a new dawn of unity, guided by the sacred bond of one, human and two alien sisters forever intertwined. Dawn's first light crept across Lyra Prime's sky, painting the horizon in soft gold and rose. From the highest balcony of the cenotaph, Marcus Vale, Alara, and Senia gazed out toward the world. They had joined, Below them, the city stirred to life. Spires of living crystal glowed faintly. Ships glided through the pale blue rivers of air, and citizens paused at street corners to look skyward. Rumors of a great change had spread overnight, but few knew its true meaning until now. The three bondmates descended the grand marble steps together, their new convergent sigil shining on Marcus's chest. Word spread quickly through the crystalline halls. The renewal ceremony would begin at the Hall of Unity. Courtiers, diplomats, and ordinary citizens gathered, filling every tiered balcony and archway. Excitement hummed in the air like distant thunder. Alara's fierce courage shone in her steady stride. Senia's calm wisdom glowed in her gentle smile, and Marcus's human spirit pulsed with pride and hope. Side by side, they entered the hall. Inside, the high priests awaited them. Around a circular dais carved from pure crystal, above it floated 3 spirals of light, 1 bronze, 1 silver, and 1 new core of golden hue. The priests chanted softly in the ancient tongue, their voices echoing off the high dome. As the bondmates approached, the spiral lights turned, to follow them, bathing the hall in a warm, living glow. High Priestess Verta stepped forward, her robes woven with threads that caught the light like dew. She raised her hands and the chanting fell silent. Today, she spoke, voice clear and strong, we witness a union never before seen, a convergence of human will and Synaxian spirit. One vessel of flesh and mind, bound to 2 sisters of starfire and sea. Her words drifted across the crowd, carrying a sense of awe. The citizens bowed their heads in respect. Marcus knelt at the dais's edge. Alara and Senia stood on either side, their palms resting lightly on his shoulders. Verta placed a crystal chalice before each sister, one holding amber stardust, the other silver dew. She handed the human chalice to Marcus. "Drink, and let the worlds flow through you," the high priestess instructed. Marcus lifted the chalice, his heart pounding. He remembered each trial, the river's song, the forge's fire, the court's trials, the space battle, and the moonlit choice. He thought of the love and trust of 2 alien sisters who had claimed him as their bondmate. He raised the chalice to his lips and drank. Warm light spread down his throat like sunrise, filling every vein with the blended essence of Lyra Prime's power. Alara drank next, amber stardust swirling over her tongue. Flames danced across her skin, bright and alive. Senia drank the silver dew, and watery ribbons of light coursed through her hair. The trio remained bound, each sharing the other's sacred energy. The hall brightened, as though the ceiling itself opened to the cosmos. Then Verta raised her hands again, and the spirals of light above formed into a single emblem, a trinity knot of bronze, silver, and gold. "Let this emblem stand as promise," she proclaimed. "That human and Synaxian walk forward as one." The audience erupted in cheers, echoing through marble arches. Citizens wept with joy, bowing their heads and clapping their hands. The ceremony was more than spectacle. It was a pact of unity that would shape both worlds. Outside the Hall of Unity, Marcus, Alara, and Senia stepped onto the balcony once more. The crowd filled the plaza below, voices rising in celebration. Flags of humanity and Synaxian starbursts waved side by side. Marcus raised his joined hands with the sisters, and the plaza's many lights pulsed in unison, as if the world itself answered. A delegation of Earthships newly arrived from the far reaches of space hovered at the station's gates. Their captains transmitted messages of greeting and friendship. Below, Lyra Prime's skyways opened to welcome them. Marcus turned to Alara and Senia. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. Alara smiled, her silver eyes bright with promise. "Together we will guide our people to new heights." Senia placed her hand over Marcus's heart. "Our bond is our strength. We will face every challenge as 3. As the first Earth diplomats stepped onto Synaxian soil, cheering crowds met them with open arms. The ceremony had sparked a tide of change. Treaties were signed, trade routes opened, and scholars from both worlds gathered to share knowledge. Marcus watched the joyous mingling of humans and Synaxians, children laughing, elders speaking in shared tongues, artists painting new frescoes of intertwined galaxies. At sunset, the three bondmates returned to the Cenotaph's highest terrace. Twilight deepened into a sea of stars. Alara, Senia, and Marcus stood together, their silhouettes black against the sky. The twin moons shone overhead, now witnesses to a third light, the golden ember of unity they had forged. Marcus closed his eyes and breathed in the night air, feeling the converged power of two worlds in his soul. He opened his eyes to Alara's fierce grin and Senia's soft glow. The sacred bond had brought them here to this new dawn. Hand in hand, they faced the vast cosmos beyond Lyra Prime, ready to shape a future born of shared hope, courage, and wisdom. And as stars wheeled overhead, one human and two alien sisters stood united, their bond a beacon for all who dared to dream of harmony among the stars.